This is Toledo Symphony Lab, a behind-the-scenes look at the world of classical music from WGTE Public Media and your Toledo Symphony. I'm Brad Cresswell. Joining me today are the Toledo Symphony's president and CEO, Zach Vassar. We're in the studio. We're wearing masks, socially distanced. Also, socially distanced on the phone, we have the TSO music director, Alain Trudel, and a special guest who is chiming in today from California. I got a little walk-on music for this person. That is the pianist John Nakamatsu making a return appearance. Yay! John, what do you think? Is this too much, or is it okay with you?
That is great. That is more applause than I normally get at the end of a concerto.
Yeah, we're gonna have this music playing, when you come walking on the stage.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, no, we're not. Don't worry. So, John Nakamatsu, you are coming here to play Chopin.
That's what I think, yeah.
The first Chopin, yeah. Well, it's good that you knew about this beforehand because it's happening soon. This
would be a great prank.
Yes.
Let's see.
I think that's happened before.
Let's see. What pianist can we call and wake up out of bed and ask him why he's not here to play the concerto?
We'll start with ba-da-da-dee. That'll freak me out for sure.
Excellent. That's like an inside music joke there that we just did. This concert with John Nakamatsu playing, and tell me if I'm wrong, Chopin's Concerto No. 1, right? With the Toledo Symphony. It's Friday and Saturday at 8 o'clock p.m., live streaming on Saturday, and you can get tickets to this concert to sit in the audience and enjoy. That's at 419-246-8000 or ToledoSymphony.com. There are a couple of other works also with the Chopin piece. It's a really eclectic program of music, and we'll talk about that. But John, before we get to that, I'm going to take the opportunity to do something we didn't really do last time, and that is for you to tell your story. I mean, there are, certain things that stand out. You won the Chopin competition. You won the Van Cliburn competition. I mean, come on. That's an amazing accomplishment. Also, I understand you were a high school German teacher at one point, and then you became a pianist. I mean, how did you get from point A to point B? And before you do that, let me pull up a little music for John's story here. No, that's the wrong one. Hang on. Here we go.
Good job, guys.
Yeah, okay, this is better.
That's better, yeah.
All right, there's a little nocturne in the background to
it's Chopin.
help illustrate your story. Take it away.
It's not a totally normal story, I guess. I saw piano when I was 4. I started taking lessons when I was 6. I knew I wanted to spend my life doing it, but I ended up going to a lot more competitions where I lost than when I won, and majored in academics in college and studied privately all through college in a very intense and focused way. And then my life kind of turned around on an evening in '97 when the Cliburn competition happened. So that was indeed the short version of it, and that brought me to Toledo actually really quickly after that initial medal. So, we wouldn't be having this conversation if it for those that very fortuitous week or month, actually.
What was your first appearance here in Toledo? You remember that?
Zach tells me it's a recital.
Yeah.
And that's probably true. But very soon after, or around the same time, there was my first appearance with the orchestra, which was at the Stranahan Theater. So it wasn't even at the hall at the time. And I think Zach reminded me that was a Rotary event. Mm-hmm. And it was an incredible time, I think, because of the people that I met there. Primarily Fran and Dick Anderson, who then became, just wonderful friends and people with whom I kept in touch. And I always had this soft spot for Toledo, and thankfully got to come back multiple times over the years. And and it's a great way for me to start off re-performing after not having been on the stage for 16 months or so, 15 months. So I'm very, very much looking forward to next week.
You talk about starting the piano when you were very young, and as I understand it, you wanted your parents to get you a piano, but they thought you'd try out on the toy organ first. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah.
The toy organ? Seriously?
Yeah.
Yeah, which they
great.
Probably still have in their garage. My family does not come from a great classical music tradition, so I was the anomaly when, I came home from preschool saying that's what I wanted to do. And of course, my parents thought, well, we want a piano to take up our whole living room right at this point. So instead, they bought this little toy, and they noticed that within the 2 years that I had this toy, that I would just spend hours at it and was, going beyond just playing kind of by the numbers off of the books, and that it was, that I was doing things that they clearly didn't expect. And so at that point they decided, okay, we'll buy the piano. You have to start taking lessons. And even though I didn't want to do that, I said yes, because I thought, we'll get a piano in the house. And really from the very beginning, I knew this was it. And even my teacher, who really, incredibly was my teacher for those very first lessons, and also the person who accompanied me to the Van Cliburn competition 20 years later, she told my parents right at the beginning, there's something a little bit different about your son. And, my parents asked, well, what's wrong with him? and it basically became, years of her trying to educate them into what I needed and what a life in music might entail. And I was just very fortunate to find somebody who both knew how to teach a youngster his first scales and also how to prepare that same person for a career. And that's usually not the same person. So that's the other oddity of the story.
Wow. You want to dig that toy organ out next time you have an auction or, something like that. You can have the Nakamatsu auction. You put up a facsimile of your Van Cliburn medallion and along with the organ.
I'd be sad to see how little that would probably go for. But
well, we'll put it in the museum. Let's say a museum instead of an auction, right?
that gives it.
I'll give you $25, John.
Exactly. You're already hurting me.
But there was, as I understand it, there was some drama there. What did you play at the Cliburn? Was that Rock 3 or?
The last piece was, it's a long set of rounds where you play solo works and chamber works, and then finally two concerti, and the Rachmaninoff Third was the last piece.
And didn't some Russian dude get up and play the same thing right before you, or something like that?
Yeah, they tend to do those kinds of things in competitions, and I didn't even expect to be there, frankly. I was just shocked that I had come so far because, in my experience, I was usually cut in the early rounds, or if I made it far, it wasn't my prize for the taking. So, and then 4 years before, I had applied to the previous Cliburn competition, and I wasn't even allowed past the screening round. So, to be in the finals was just like the biggest shock of all. And I thought if it all ended here, I would be able to kind of be okay with that. And I thought, well, there's this other guy, who's obviously a great pianist and who can play this music as well as anyone else. And, it is what it is. And, the worst that can be is sixth prize, and that's not such a bad thing.
Yeah. I think your humility sets you apart, tempered by your monumental talent. So.
Yeah. If I may, Brad, I think that the Russian guy was going, God, I have to play just the same piece before Nakamatsu. It's more what happened.
Exactly. He was afraid of you.
Oh, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like when I used to be an opera singer, and they asked me if I suffer from stage fright, and I said, no, the stage is afraid of me. Right? I meant it as a joke that, I would break the stage, but I guess it has philosophical connotations as well. Right. Yeah.
So I want to know that 1993 then would have been the first Cliburn that you had applied for or auditioned for. What was different in 97? what fairy dust was in the air that you got past that screening round?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I've asked myself that a million times, but I think two things for me stand out. One is that they went to live screening auditions, meaning that before you had to send in a recording or get one made at certain centers, around the country. And then a jury would hear all of these videos, and then, at the time it was probably VHS or what, I don't even know how they recorded it, but there was one person in the hall, and it was my teacher. So how exciting is that? Whereas I saw some of the other videotapes, and they had complete audiences. In 97, they went to one jury going around the world for about a month and a half, hearing about 150 different people play recitals. And then from there, that one jury narrowed it down to 35 who would be invited. And I thought, at least there's that extra live element that I thought, basically we were all trained to experience. So that was one. And then the second thing is that, when you're, I think, a serious developing musician, and especially a student of music, with a limited amount of time to make a statement in the world, 4 years is a huge amount of time for improvement. And I think, every time I lost something, which was very frequent, it helped me go back and reevaluate what I was doing. Not in the sense of like my own worth, but really to see if there was something that I could take from the criticism that was useful and helpful. And not all of it was, but some of it certainly was valid. And I still read and listen to criticism in a way that would allow me to benefit from it. And so I would think that 4 years later, I wasn't the same person that I was in 93. And all things considered, I think I was just more ready for everything. So I'm so glad that in 93 that didn't happen for me, because I wouldn't have been the same person. I may not have been able to be in the profession as I am today, because, in 4 years, perspective as an adult really changes your outlook. I was an old competition winner. I was not, the 19-year-old who suddenly takes the world by storm. I was 28. And that's not always the case. So, but for me, that's what worked, and I think that's what needed to happen. And so I'm just glad it did before I had to take advantage of my own exit strategy and walk away from it all.
Well, you did. You definitely took the world by storm, even at age 28. It's never too late.
Now that seems young, so may I just say.
I want to bring in just a little bit of music here and see if we recognize this. Okay.
I haven't heard this for a while.
Yeah, we haven't been able to play this for a while. This is Alain Trudel's Walk On Music, right? And we do want to mention, Alain, that you are coming back and conducting this concert in person, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that is a monumental event, so I want to encourage everybody to show up and be in-house and to welcome you back with open arms. I mean, it's been a year, and John, you talked about not performing in public for so many months because of the pandemic. What are you feeling right now, knowing that you're actually going to be back in the house in front of an audience here in Toledo, both of you, but Alain especially?
Well, for me, if I may, yes, in front of our wonderful public, but in front of my orchestra. That's a huge part of it. I mean, it's the family. I mean, I've missed my family so much. I mean, we've been in touch every day. We work, we do things, but it's not the same. I miss the physical, like musical contact. Although we keep social distancing, but of making live music, and I watch. Of course, I have to make sure that I see all of the tapas streaming of the orchestra, take some notes, and of many different things. Most of them like technical, sound, image, all kinds of things, and and to see if our plans are going well. But it has nothing to do with being there next to everybody and seeing everybody in person. And what's really interesting is that to get back to continue the discussion, the continued conversation with our wonderful public, because by now I've been at the orchestra 2 years before it started, so I know a lot of our audience, and I see them. I go and chat with them at the break. Now it's different. There's no break, and we try to keep some distance, but just to feel the energy of people who will be there, and just to be on stage, being able to participate with the family of doing this is amazing. But what's really interesting is that my first concert when I was named music director, not my first concert in Toledo, but my first concert after being named music director, the soloist was a certain John Nakamatsu.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's the John that we're talking with right now, right? Not a different one.
I do believe so. Yeah.
Just to make sure it's you, John, that we're talking about.
I have it in my contract now, and whenever I show up, he has to be playing.
Yeah. Alain, I think at the very first rehearsal, right? At the first rehearsal, Alain, you have to wear a big name tag that says, "Hello, my name is Alain," right?
Yeah, I went to a meeting. I go to meetings. I say, "Hello, my name is Alain." They all say hello, and I say I'm a workaholic, and they say, "Okay."
We won't ask what kind of meetings these are exactly. But John, you haven't been performing in public that much either during the pandemic.
No, not
right?
at all. In fact, even my online things were somewhat by choice limited. But so it's funny. It's a mix of tremendous excitement and anticipation and profound terror. I almost feel like I forgot how to do this, and maybe I shouldn't be telling off this, but I used to think that even if I wasn't performing for a week, it feels like the next one is like an opening night again. Like you just kind of get into this rhythm in the regular season, and then suddenly you're going, and even if you're so busy and overworked, somehow you have this rhythm that carries you through the performances and allows you to just walk off one stage and onto another, and kind of metaphorically and kind of not. And then after such a long break, I think like many musicians, we've sat back and reevaluated a lot of just even who we are as musicians and how we operate. And so coming back is going to be a totally different experience, and even the feeling of just the mechanics of being at a performance, that all just, it'll feel as exciting as it will strangely unfamiliar. And in a way that's great, because I think I'll learn a lot from that as well, but I'm also just hoping that I don't screw up too badly. So.
Yes. Don't screw it up, whatever you do.
You're going to be wonderful. I mean, we had our first performance with an audience last week in Laval with our orchestra here, and we were like excited. It was excited, like when I was in the conservatory, when finally you get to play in front of people, and they're like, woohoo! It was, and it's interesting because it's all a bunch of professionals, like seasoned players, and we all feel like kids. So it's just going to be so exciting and so much fun, and we have a good program for that. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Excellent.
I would love to know Chopin. And the role that he plays in both of your careers, because John, I remember that Chopin was, I think, one of your first studio recordings was a Chopin recital, and we get to hear you in this wonderful concerto. So, what are your reflections on Chopin? What does he mean to you? And I'll ask the same of Alain.
Yeah, well, for pianists, I think for most pianists, Chopin is just kind of synonymous with learning the piano. He wrote almost exclusively for the piano. All of his major works include the piano, and usually solo piano. And it's a composer who wrote in a variety of ways, kind of like Schumann and Bach, where they wrote for young people as well as completely mature musicians. Chopin is a composer with whom I identified from my earliest years. I spent a lot of time studying his music, and in fact, my teacher wanted me to learn basically everything he wrote pretty early, because she said, if you are ever in the profession, this is, one composer whom people would request probably beyond all others, at least of pianists in recital. And that really is the case. But, I just think that for audiences as well, Chopin is so satisfying to perform because even if you don't know the music, there's something that's fairly universal about the way he appeals to people. People hear the romantic, or people hear the lyricism, or people hear the virtuosity, and it's all cased in a way that makes sense and is simultaneously really interesting and idiomatic for the pianist. It's well written music that almost, in a situation where the mechanics kind of vanish as you hear it, and that's, I think, the best type of music for us. And I think I will play him my whole life. And I think Brad said, I did do some Chopin competitions, and I don't know. When I play this first concerto, I just, it's hard to believe that he was only 20 when he wrote it.
Yeah.
I think audiences still kind of marvel at that fact too.
Yeah.
Well, let's segue into a little cheer for you. Let's segue into our quiz of the day, which is a Chopin quiz, right? So we're going to put all this great Chopin knowledge to the test, and these answers may or may not be correct. I just found them on the internet, so we'll see if I got it right or not.
Oh, no,
Did you take them off of John's webpage by chance?
Yeah, John's webpage. Okay, let me pull up some music. No, that's the wrong one. Hang on. Here we go. There we go. This is a little better. This is a little better for quiz music. Okay.
It's a minute quiz.
Yes, the minute quiz. Actually, I have it on
I don't
repeat,
stand
so
a chance.
it's the never-ending quiz because it's on repeat. All right. We know the composers had nicknames. Schubert, for instance, was Little Mushroom. Haydn was Papa Haydn. Beethoven was sometimes called Luigi, if you didn't know. What was Chopin's nickname?
Mario.
And these can also be Mario, yes. These can also be all of the above, none of the above, that sort of thing. Okay, so Chopin's nickname, was it Chop Chop? Was it Little Grasshopper? Or was it Mr. Velvet Fingers?
Wow.
This sounds like a great cartoon. Chop Chop,
Chop
Little
Chop, yeah.
Grasshopper, and Mr. Velvet Fingers.
I think those are the titles of children's books.
No, those were all actually, they were all nicknames.
Wow.
All nicknames for Chopin, given to him by Georges Sand, right?
I thought the last one was Mel Torme playing the piano.
Yes. No, that's Velvet Fog, not Velvet Fingers.
Oh, sorry.
But,
Well,
yeah.
with the fog, it's so difficult to tell.
Yeah, okay. We're off to a great start. We're only one question into the quiz. Okay. Chopin and Liszt.
Merwin's going to win anyway.
I demand a recount.
Chopin and Liszt. Let's talk about Chopin and
The
Liszt.
Chopin list?
They were sort of friends. They were kind of more frenemies than they were friends. What soured the relationship, as it were? Was it that Liszt played Chopin's music too well? Was it that Liszt embellished Chopin's music and performance? Or Liszt was a little bit too cozy with Chopin's companion, Georges Sand? Can I say George Sand, or do I have to say Georges Sand?
Georges Sand. Yeah.
Okay.
Georges Sand.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot there was a French-speaking person here.
Careful there.
Okay.
You're
Yeah.
about to lose your own quiz. Yeah.
I got buzzed. All right, the answer is B. Liszt
Is it B?
embellished. Evidently,
B,
yeah, he embellished
Yeah.
Chopin's. It's not like that's the kind of music that needs to be embellished, right?
Yeah, it's fairly.
John, you ever get the temptation to just kind of riff on Chopin mid-performance?
I don't have enough fingers.
Good answer. Good answer. Okay, since his childhood, Frédéric Chopin loved to do what? Collect small objects like mechanical toys, play the piano in the dark, or imitate animals?
I thought he was a big fan of Friends.
No, frenemies. Any answers for that? He used to play piano in the dark. He would turn off the lights because he was shy. Play piano in the dark. He would do that at parties sometimes too. If he played at a party, he would ask the lights to be turned off. Collecting small objects was Ravel, actually,
Miniatures, yeah.
and animals, imitation of animals. That was a Mozart specialty. Okay. The waltz we're listening to right now, Opus 64, number 1, we all know it, nicknamed the Minute Waltz or the Minute Waltz. It was inspired by what? A dog chasing its tail, a cat batting a ball of yarn, or a bird flying around the room?
Oh, wow.
That's a good one. And it is one of them.
It's also called... Say again, Elaine?
I said B.
B, a cat batting a ball of yarn.
I would like A.
I have no idea.
And we
Good for you.
John wins that one. A dog chasing his tail. Sometimes it's called the puppy dog waltz, right? The puppy dog waltz.
I've never heard that.
Which completely solves the announcer's problem of, do I say the minute waltz? Do I say the minute waltz? Just say the puppy dog waltz. See if it catches on, right? What do you say, John? You say minute waltz?
Yeah, but I hate that. It doesn't even. It lasts way more than a minute.
Well, yeah, I know. I mean, I have a few recordings where they obviously tried to clock in at a minute.
Yeah.
And
Wasn't this sort of like ephemera from early days of the internet? They found like a Edison cylinder where they tried to beat it in a minute or something, and it turned out to be totally false.
But now it's like the disc clavier, you know. It's like computer music, basically. So, yeah, the minute, as in miniature waltz. That's how the publisher meant that word, minute waltz. Okay, the dog chasing his tail. What was the dog's name? Was it Contessa, Baron, or Marquis? This is just guess. Contessa, Baron, or Marquis?
Marquis.
Contessa.
It's Marquis. How did you get that, Zach? That's
I know
amazing.
these things.
Lucky guess. Okay. All right. People think, oh, we lost our minute waltz. Let me get it back.
Tell Marquis to get back up on the...
Now we may as well let this one play out.
This is getting to the end of the quiz. This is usually how I feel. Dread.
Yeah. So people think that, I said this, it refers to a minute. The publisher meant it in the sense of it being short. Who recorded the minute waltz or the minute waltz as a song with English lyrics? I'll give you a sample. I've got a minute, just a little minute. I have only got a minute, just a minute. I have only got a minute. That is all the time I have to sing this tiny little minute waltz. Obviously, they sang it a little better than I did.
It's a tongue twister. Was it Victor Borgia?
No, would it be Carol Burnett, Barbra Streisand, or Ella Fitzgerald?
It's Barbra Streisand.
Yeah. Yeah. I was so encumbered by the funeral march, I almost did the sad chair there. Totally Barbra Streisand from her 1966 album Color Me Barbara. This next one I'm not so sure if it's true. Maybe I should skip it. No, it gets kind of morbid after this. Let's bring up the funeral march. Okay. What were Chopin's last words on his deathbed? Was it, I feel lousy? My poor mother, or don't cry for me. Now, these were all said by famous composers.
I thought it was you leaning on my chest.
No. Supposedly, one of the sources say Chopin's last words were, "Mother, my poor mother." I found one that said that Wagner's last words were, "I feel lousy," which I thought was great, but I couldn't find it anywhere else, so it's definitely true. And then the other one is Bach, "Don't cry for me, for I go where music is born." That was his,
It's a little bit better.
final word, right? So Chopin suffered from taphophobia, which caused him to do what? Never drink water if he could help it, never grow a beard, or demand that his body be cut open after his death.
Whoa.
It did get dark.
Well, the last one did happen.
Yeah. I'm going to give that one to you.
Oh.
Yeah, taphophobia is the fear of being buried alive.
Oh.
Right? So
Amp down, I guess.
the water thing is hydrophobia. If you're afraid of beards, you have paganophobia. Right? So if you know anybody that's afraid of beards, they're paganophobic. Just so you know. This is an educational podcast.
Yes, it is.
All right.
How is that spelled?
EDUCATIONAL. Educational.
Thank you,
Right.
Brett.
Okay.
And we're playing some really nice music on the program.
Okay, where was Chopin buried? Where was Chopin
Not
buried?
alive. You know that one now. I'm paying attention. Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe he was buried in the ground.
Well, we know this story, right? He's in Paris. He was buried in Père Lachaise. But his heart sits in a pickle jar full of cognac at a church in Warsaw. They removed his heart and sent it to Poland after he died. You know this story? It's
A pickle
fascinating
jar.
Story.
Why would they choose a pickle jar?
I don't know. Maybe it was pickled in a jar, and I just messed up the words. Extra credit. A statue of what sits atop Chopin's tombstone? So there's a statue on top of his tombstone.
It's got to be Liszt. It's got to be Liszt.
At Père Lachaise, and you tell me what it is, okay? Liszt is not on here, but I have a list of possibilities. Is it a golden lyre? Is it a statue of Euterpe? Or is it Chopin? What's the statue of?
It's the thing with the big nut wave or something like that.
Maybe
I think it's him.
It's his own picture.
Yeah.
No,
No.
it's not Chopin. It's actually... That applause is for me, because I'm about to answer. That actually is Euterpe, the muse of music from Greek mythology. The golden lyre is on Beethoven's tombstone, but that's in Vienna.
So that's the statue with the tree that's blowing the leaves next to him, right?
Something like that, yes.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say yes.
I thought it was him. Yeah. Okay.
So, is it true that he composed the funeral march like clutching a skull and wearing a death shroud? There's some probably apocryphal story about this, but have you guys heard that too?
I've never heard that story.
Never heard that. No.
Clutching a skull and a
Wearing
death
a
shroud.
death shroud, yeah.
John, will you do that when you perform Piano Concerto No. 1? I guess you can't really clutch a skull, but maybe you can dress up a little bit.
That's right, yes.
Wear a Chopin wig and a big cloak. You'll be all set.
So you got that going for you.
Yes.
So, chaps, shall we talk about the program at all? This is a lovely little concerto with a famous slow movement.
Well, the concerto is fantastic, and it's also paired with music of Bach and a living composer, Jesse Montgomery. So let's dive in and talk about the music.
Okay. So for my return, I wanted to make sure that three things were important for me to feel like really comfortable and feel like I'm back. Is that all year long we've promoted, and you'll see next season also, we promote all composers from every origin, composers. We're trying to include composers from different backgrounds, and this was important. It's not a very long piece that opens the program, but so I really want to make sure that we continue on our, like the last concert we had a wonderful piece by Quinn Mason, and I wanted to continue on that road. So Jessie Montgomery, she's a wonderful composer. It's very interesting because she has a foot in classical music and a foot I wouldn't say jazz, or it's some kind of, more popular kind of music, but her classical music and her classical writing, especially for string, is very, very strong. And I want to have something that had a lot of positivism and a lot of engagement in that. And she wrote a piece called Starburst for string orchestra. It's not very long, but it's very impressive. And it starts with a lot of guts, and it starts with a lot of... you feel very positive when you finish that piece. So I want to make sure that we had something like that, something American on the program also, as we play a lot of American music when I'm there. And I was really excited that we could program that. We actually changed a little bit our original program to include that. Then the other things, I wanted to have our orchestra featuring some of our own people and as soloists also. So, we haven't played Bach for a very long time. We're talking about Bach a little bit earlier in the quiz, but I thought, what better than to feature something that everybody knows,
That was much better than my minute waltz approximation.
Low bar, Brad.
Yeah.
But I'm just a bit saying that moment because everybody will recognize it, hopefully. And it's from the Bach Second Orchestral Suite, and that will feature our principal flute. So Joel Zick, he will be our solo. So that we already had a rehearsal via Zoom together, and we're putting this together. But it was important for me to make sure that we start featuring, we continue to feature our own people in the orchestra. And of course, wanted to have a guest that personally I know well, I feel comfortable with, that the orchestra really loves. And of course, John is the perfect guest for that. And it just so happens, again, like I said before, it was there in my first concert music director, and we thought, a Chopin concerto, that our public will love that. And for him, I think, John, the first concerto is one that you like very much and that you play a lot. So you can tell us after if you want. Hopefully the answer will be yes. But it's something that's important for me. And you had asked, Zach had asked the question, what Chopin means to you. And we asked John and I. For me, the Chopin concerto, one thing I like about them and that I like to do about them is to be an advocate to convince people that Chopin was not a bad orchestrator. I'll explain very quickly. Is that the concertos, of course, are incredible for piano, but they have a reputation to have an orchestration that's kind of subpar a little bit. And it's not true. It's just that very often we play them, we don't really rehearse. We just, everybody knows it, we play. But they have really interesting, like woodwind part. The double bass part is very different from the cello part. We want to bring all of this out. And this is, I'm very excited about us having the opportunity to do this. So, those three elements make the concert something that's really nice. And Jesse Montgomery, Jean-Sebastian Bach, Frédéric Chopin with John, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, it sounds amazing, and such a wide variety of music.
Mm-hmm.
John, I want to give you the last word, because we've been talking about Chopin, and of course you have a lot of experience with Chopin. What are your thoughts? How has your performance, your treatment of Chopin changed over the years, and what do you want to bring to this performance?
I'm not sure that I've, made any type of conscious fundamental change in the way I look at Chopin or even in music. I think that just happens with the experience of life and the understanding of more and more material, and just further study. I do know that it is different because when I listen to past recordings, even not so distant past recordings of myself playing Chopin or practically anything, the fact that sometimes it feels very foreign and almost like a different person means that in some ways I've kind of moved beyond where I once was with these works, for better or for worse. I may move back in that direction another day, but that's for me the hallmark of great music, is that you can always find something new to say and something that's already been said 1,000 different ways. One of the great things that I'm looking forward to for next week is actually something that Elaine just touched on, and that is that the orchestra is really, really vital to this piece. So often we think of the piano doing all the work and then the orchestra just kind of holding notes, but sometimes when the orchestra is just holding notes, it makes it even more difficult for them to know when to play the notes, because if you're playing constantly, you're kind of in a groove and you're in a rhythm and everybody's working. But with Chopin, there's so much kind of individual flexibility, and not only just in my part, but also in some of the solos, that we all have to be the sharpest chamber musicians to really pull off this work in a good way. I mean, I think the music kind of takes a lot of punishment as well, but when I think, well, I'm going to really have the chance to work with Elaine and somebody who really actually cares about the ensemble and it's so extraordinary, and I think it works really, really, really well. So again, this is just I think the perfect piece for us to come back to music with.
Yeah. Pianist John Nakamatsu is coming to Toledo, also with Elaine Trudel, two wonderful artists making a return appearance right here in Toledo at the Peristyle. It's happening Friday and Saturday at 8 o'clock p.m. Streaming on Saturday, a live audience for both nights. You can get your tickets at 419-246-8000 or ToledoSymphony.com. If you're listening to the podcast and it's already passed, well, you can find this along with the other streaming concerts available online at stream.artstoledo.com. John, it's been great talking with you, and I want to thank you for coming back on and indulging us here for Toledo Symphony Lab. We look forward to having you in Toledo.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
This concert is also the triumphant return of you, Elaine, and talking to you on the phone has been great, but it'll be nice to speak with you in person and to have you here live in the flesh, so we look forward to that as well.
Oh, me too.
This program is a production of WGTE Public Media in collaboration with our sponsor, the Toledo Symphony, with generous support from the Rita Barber Kern Foundation. You can download episodes of this program as a podcast by going to our website at wgte.org/lab. You can also subscribe to us through your podcast app of choice, including Apple and Google Podcasts. And remember, you can check out all the upcoming events at the Symphony by visiting their website at toledosymphony.com and their various social media outlets on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can find the TSO streaming concerts online, as I mentioned, at stream.artstoledo.com. My thanks to Zach Vassar, Merwin Siu, Elaine Trudell, and John Nakamatsu. I'm Brad Cresswell. You've been listening to Toledo Symphony Lab from FM 91.